Usually takes between a half an hour and an hour. We're going to go look at all the different areas, show you how this missile was assembled and where they stored it, how they launched it, and try and answer any questions you might have. So, Cold War, that's why this was here. This site was here because the Soviet Union had airplanes that could travel 10,000 miles and carry megaton devices. Cold War went on from the end of World War II until 1991 when the Soviet Union disbanded. Berlin walking down in '89. So after that, we're kind of like we're in a lot firmer ground. But up until then, there's an acronym for the Cold War called MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction. The two superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States, had enough hardened retaliatory strike capabilities to destroy both continents. They both had enough nuclear weapons. They're rewriting the history books of the Cold War now because they have information that they didn't have before. A lot of things that were secret and classified are on the internet, and historians are researching that. And they're finding out that it was more dangerous than we had perceived. So this is just, there were 280 of these anti-aircraft Nike missile sites in this country and another 100 throughout the world. This is the only one that's been restored. So we're kind of fortunate there that the late Colonel Milton B. Halsey took an interest in this place and used his influence as being a 34-year infantry colonel in the Army to go to Army depots and have volunteers bring this stuff back here and assemble it. And for the last 20 years, volunteers and the National Park have been restoring and maintaining and seeing what you're going to see today. So it's free. You can take pictures. Of course, I get to keep all your cameras. The Maui Condo Retirement Fund. No, everything is declassified. There's no explosives here. There's no radars that are radiating. There's no fuel in the missiles, and they don't trust me with nuclear warheads, so, nor vice versa. So this missile here, this Nike Hercules missile that you're seeing, it was here from '58 till it closed in '74. And this missile had a range of 90 miles and carried nuclear warheads. All 12 of the Nike Hercules missiles here had warheads that were either 2 kilotons, 20 kilotons, or 40 kilotons. To put that into a perspective, during World War II, we dropped 2 nuclear devices on Japan. Hiroshima was between 12 and 14 kilotons, and Nagasaki was approximately 20. So here we have a missile with a range of 90 miles with 2, or 20, or 40 kilotons. This was considered the last line of defense. If a plane got past the Air Force, got past the Navy, they were hoping it didn't get past this. And fortunately, the Nike logo wasn't just do it. Okay. The Army seemed to think that Nike was the Greek goddess of victory. Now, I've had some people from Greece here that seem to think that Athena Nike was the guardian of Athens, but we're going with Greek goddess of victory today, okay? We're going to follow the Nike. So this was here from 1954 until 1974. All right, any questions?
Was this just the launch site, or was this fire control as well?
This is the launch area. The integrated fire control is up on top of Wolf Ridge. Every Nike site had 3 distinct areas. This launch area, the integrated fire control, and barracks and administration, which this site was around behind the Cypress Street and the YMCA Conference Center.
So was there a single pairing, one with integrated fire control with the launch site, or did you have multiple launch sites?
No, they only dealt with one launch site, and their frequencies didn't interfere with the launch of other missiles that may have been in the San Francisco Defense Group. There were 12 sites initially in the San Francisco Defense Group. The Marine Mammal Center, something was Site 87, they had 12 missiles. Their integrated fire control was Hawk Hill. That was the highest point that you see when you drive over the Golden Gate Bridge. They needed line of sight. They needed to be pretty far away because the missiles traveled so fast mechanically. The missile tracking radar that was telling you where to go and when to explode. These were flown by computer. Windows 55. I'll show them to you because we have some people that are interested in computers today. So I'll turn on a lot of our equipment too.
So these were guided from a radar site then?
These were ground-based radar guided systems. Yes. Let's see, let me think. Memory card, yes it did. It had what was called an event recorder, kind of like a black box in the airplane. And I'll show you where that was in everything. So I'm going to have to light up everything today, I can tell. It's going to be a tough one. But they tested all the non-explosive components in here. The electronics, and this is the very beginning of electronics, and the very beginning of computers. Western Electric and Bell Telephone designed this electronics, and they contracted with Douglas to build the computers. So, this is a special trailer that they could hook up. Anybody here operate a radio-controlled car or helicopter or airplane, anything like that? Had an antenna? You held the controller in your hand? The missile has two antennae. It has one that, in case it makes a turn, it doesn't want to lose track with the missile tracking radar, so it would lock on to the other antenna. And it's being sent 500 pulse groups per second to the antenna. And within each pulse group, there are four possibilities. It says hello. The missile says hello back, given the way it's positioned. It tells it to pitch, which is up and down, yaw, which is side to side, or explode. This computer over here tells it whether to explode. Here. Anyway, I should take this on. So this missile, let's see, do I have a missile on me? I should probably have one. Yes, so too. Doesn't look like a missile, but it is. This missile goes up in the air. The booster burns for 3.5 seconds, comes back to Earth unguided. Slight problem. Makes a lot of noise. And this section here has a lanyard that gets pulled. It starts its motor, and the first steering command it gets from the missile tracking radar up on the hill is a roll stabilization. It turns its belly to the target and continues up. And in 30 seconds, this missile can be 28 miles in the air. Okay? It runs out of fuel. And now it's coming down, and it's going to be guided by computer-generated signals and bringing it to the enemy aircraft. And when it gets to, let's say you were the enemy aircraft today, and when it gets to 0, tell me when this gets to 0. Right there? Everything's lined up, 0, 0, 0. 0 on top, 0 on the bottom. See this hitting that switch, and this hitting this switch? Got people behind it? Bang. The missile never hits the target. It just gets its first command from this. This computer is your time to intercept computer.
Are they solid or liquid boosters?
They were solid boosters, and the Ajax, we'll talk about that. That was a binary fuel, and the Hercules was a solid fuel. Yes?
What were you saying about the song that hits the target?
It doesn't hit anything. If it hits the target, it wouldn't have the ability to interpret the first commands and the steering commands, because all the electronics are in the nose.
It was just hitting.
Yeah, it would be a mess. Yes.
So so you do know that when the nuclear bomb that was dropped in Tokyo was how many volts was it?
Well, I don't know about the voltage, but they call it. They use a term called kilotons, which would be a ton is 2,000 pounds. A kiloton is 2,200 pounds. But they use the metric system in describing this, and that would be the equivalent of that much dynamite. Okay, explosive material.
And how fast was that bomb?
Well, they dropped that bomb probably with a parachute because they wanted to get the airplane as far away from it as possible before it exploded. So it wasn't fast. This missile was very fast. This missile comes and then it is exploded like this, and it's a very large explosion.
So,
yes.
Oh, so you can, like, when the missile is in the air, you can't choose, you can't decide when it's going to explode.
Oh, no.
It's in the air.
No.
First program.
No, here's what's happening. I didn't want to get this far into it, but I think I have to here. Okay, you have 5 radars that are up on that hill. 2 of them are acquisition, 3 are for tracking. One's missile tracking, one talks to the missile. The other 2, target tracking and target ranging. One tells you the distance, the target ranging, and the target tracking tells you an angle, which is called an azimuth, from a horizontal plane to the target. As the target changes, those coordinates change. That feeds that into the amplifier. The amplifiers are talking to this potentiometer, and this is turning at a speed that all these gears, this is calculus in the gearing. Okay? So this is doing a calculus equation. This is coming from a point in space to a 0 point in space. It's like a timer. And that's when that gets there. So whatever the target does determines what the missile's going to do. The missile is correct. The target 0, the missile is always correcting to 0. When it gets within the optimum range of the thing, this computer tells it to explode.
So they assume an altitude at apogee then, and then just a countdown timer?
Yes.
And they just do...
This is a rotary slide rule with electronic input, with vacuum tube electronic input, which is the beginning of electronics, very beginning. When I was your age, actually I was a little younger, my father had the first television ever, I swear to God. And it was that big. It had, well, it wasn't that high, but it had a screen this big. And there was always this many people in our living room watching it. And it had like...
Right?
No, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap at all. No.
It's totally expensive.
Yeah, do you remember when cell phones were this big?
Yeah.
That was the same thing. They didn't have cell phones. But anyway, they used vacuum tubes. Because you could go to the drugstore to fix your television. You take the tubes down and put them in a machine, and it would say good or bad. I'm not kidding. There was only 3 stations, and it didn't come on until 5 o'clock at night. I used to watch the test pattern for 2 hours. True story. Yeah, there was only 3 channels. ABC, NBC, and CBS. Yeah, they all had the first 3 letters in the alphabet. So, and that was it. And I wasn't allowed to watch Milton Berle until I got to B4. Okay, hey, let's go take a look at this place. I'm going to lock it up.